Hello, good evening. Excuse me, and welcome to the TNT show, The Nation Talks. Now, tonight's show is exceptional. Every week I suggest to you that the show is exceptional, and it's largely the case, but this is very different. Tonight, we've got the brains as well as the brawn behind the TNT show and so many other fine productions. Tonight, we are joined by Kevin Gibney. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kevin is the guy who makes IndyLive tick. Without Kevin, there would be no TNT show. There would be none of the productions and the products you see on the IndyLive channel. None. Zip. Zero. So what I thought would be really interesting is to ask you to join in tonight and let's find out a little bit about Kevin. Why did he decide to do this crazy thing? And how is he able to keep up his enthusiasm over a long period of time against all the people suggesting do this, do that. I wouldn't have done it that way. I've done it the other way. As happens when you do anything like this. So Kevin has got a particularly difficult job tonight to do because not only is he the guest, but he's also producing the show. So from time to time, he's going to look away to the right, or maybe to the left occasionally, because he needs to monitor the process to make sure that you're hearing what we hope you're hearing and enjoying the quality standards that you've come to expect from IndyLive. So, and the other different thing that's going to happen tonight, because we welcome your comments and questions as always, is that because Kevin effectively is playing every instrument in the band, it would be grossly unfair to ask him to monitor your questions as well. So we're not going to do that. What we're asking you to do, though, is to drop me an email to john@cleash.com. And I have with me my trusty phone, right? So any questions that you submit to john@cleash.com, I'll put those questions to Kevin and we'll try to answer them. So it's a wee bit different to the conventional way. Okay, got all that? Terrific. Now, without any further ado, let's go on to the real meat and bones of the show. Kevin, how are you doing? How are you coping with the pandemic?
Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yes, all's well. I'm coping well. We've, as far as Independence Live is concerned, we switched smoothly from doing outside live streams to online live streams because we've always done online live streams using Skype. So it wasn't too big a deal. And we're actually busier now than we were pre-COVID. We're doing an awful lot more, and it's been quite, Independence Live-wise, it's been quite exciting. It's been good.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I really appreciate, Kevin. In addition to all your work behind the scenes, and I'm not sure anyone fully appreciates how much hard work you do, is the fact that, you know, when we go and talk to people about, would you like to come on the TNT show and ask people to be our guests, it's very rare that we get any sort of pushback. People tell they want to do it, and they want to do it because they appreciate the quality standards. They appreciate the fact that we're going to help them through any sort of technical difficulties they might have, either with their broadband or all the rest of that good stuff. I don't want you guys watching and listening to this to think, gracious, because we operate on a shoestring budget, that determines the quality standards. It doesn't. It doesn't. In fact, one of the great attributes that Kevin has, and I'm going to say it because he's too modest to do so, is the fact that Kevin produces a quality output on a minimal budget. Kevin does not have 30 million, or goodness knows how many pounds a year that the BBC enjoys, right? Nothing even remotely close to it. And yet, you get programs like this and so many others. So let's find out a little bit more about Kevin. Where did you grow up, Kevin? You live in Glasgow now, were you always a Glaswegian?
I was a Ayrshire boy, deepest, darkest Ayrshire. And I kind of grew up down in Markirk, and we moved to Auchinleck, and I'm now a big Auchinleck Talbot fan. And I finally made my way up to Glasgow via Paisley Tech. And then, of course, that's because at the West Coast of Scotland University now, I believe. And I went up to do a computer science degree. I was into my programming and stuff. So that's what I did. And I remember when up at first, John, my accent was quite something, because it was, you ken this and all that. And Glasgow was like a foreign country to me. Just get up on the train, I was like, oh my God, where am I going? And I get the P ripped out me quite a bit for my accent at the time. But there you go.
See, I don't think you have an accent.
Yeah. Well, I did. It was full on Ayrshire, and I do like slipping into it now and again.
So, but in Ayrshire, I mean, we've interviewed Billy Kay, as you know, and Billy's from that neck of the woods. Billy, for those of you who might not be aware of it, is a prodigious author in Scots, and he's written extraordinary books about Scotland and Scots and the Scottish diaspora. But he grew up in that neck of the woods. Yeah, he's got the same, I guess, the same sort of challenges. I think he spoke Scots from in the 24-hour period. It was only between 9 and 5 when he was at school that he didn't speak Scots.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I didn't realise I was speaking Scots. You know what I mean? It was like, it was English. You had to pronounce right and all this and that. And it wasn't until I went up to Glasgow, all these posh Glaswegian widgies, laughing at my Ayrshire accent, John. Shocking. So I'll always have a soft spot for the Auchinleck Talbot and the Kelly. Ayre's the enemy, I'm afraid. Ayre was always with Cumnock Juniors. So, I'm afraid, I don't have great feelings about Ayre.
Yeah.
Nice place.
Well,
nice people.
I can't claim to have spent as much time as you in Ayrshire. I spent a year or two in Largs, and that was interesting enough. I remember on one occasion chairing a public meeting in Largs Academy to discuss the train service from Glasgow. And we had a number of members of the press there because it was a huge gathering, relatively speaking, and we were going to try and get to the very nub of all these issues that people felt were holding back the service between Largs and Glasgow. And I said, any questions as chair? I thought, let's open this up to the floor. And the first question was from some guy who stood up and said, I want to complain about the drivers being drunk.
Dear me.
And I said, as a word of caution, I said, look, there are members of the Fourth Estate here. And I said, I'm not sure you should press ahead unless you have categorical proof that you can provide. And he said, I don't care how many lords and ladies are here. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I said, okay. And we got it straight from the horse's mouth. So you moved into computer science. What happened thereafter then? How did you end up where you ended up?
I've been about quite a bit. Yeah, not the most stable of careers. I ended up down in London. I was freelancing for various big companies down there. And it's quite a few interesting experiences down there. I remember being I got seconded. I was actually got a job freelancing at the Times, the enemy, I know, the enemy. But I got seconded down to the Current Bun, which was the Sun's online internet company at the time, and various escapades there. I got asked one time if I could find the guy, the guy that released all the security services. He wrote a list. I can't remember his name, but I got asked to find it, and they were going to put my name in the paper and all this, and I was panicking. So I managed to, get out of that. Also worked at that place. It was online clothing store, right? And it was sucking in millions. At that time, it was you know, all these internet businesses were popping up and millions and billions were being pumped into them. And remember this particular one, there's a guy working there who's doing JavaScript and that, and he's the top programmer. And he was offered, he wanted to go and see his girlfriend who was in Russia, John, right? And they offered him £10,000, right, for like a weekend, not to go. Jeez. And the guy was like a broken guy, you know, the pressure on this fella. But, you know, fair play to him. He went, turned down 10 grand. That was like around about the year 2000, just before that.
Love conquers all.
Absolutely. I'm sure he made a fair packet anyway, but the guy was falling to bits at the time. So yeah, after London, jumped about again, ended up getting a house in there, lost a house in there, went to live in India, and back and forward for India. Had an online business, so I was running that from India, and yeah, met the wife, decided that I might enjoy myself better not running about doing mad stuff. So yeah, ended up in Glasgow, and here I am. I've got, you know, a little young family later. I've got twin daughters. They're 10. My wife's now at uni. She stopped doing her uni course because she was pregnant, but she went back, and fair play to her. She's just about, you know, there now. She's in I think that's her final. She's got a dissertation, just 12,000 words to do, and that'll be her done. So there you go.
Good for her. It must be really challenging on you guys. Doing a course like that and raising the kids. That's not easy. That's just not easy.
I take my hat off to all the students, right? Because, you know, they're not getting to get into libraries. They weren't getting to get into libraries and stuff, and it was a real difficulty for them. I mean, but, you know, my wife had the kids to deal with running about as well as myself, you know, and so it's you know, it was very problematic for her, especially trying to study. Yeah. It's not easy.
Well, here's our first question of the night, Kevin. And it's from Chaz. He says, did any one thing finally push you to start IndyLive Radio and the TNT show?
Rage, anger. I was looking at what the mainstream media were doing. They were calling us Nazis, John. Nazis, right? I was enraged by them. We during the IndyRef, we went to the Glasgow Emirates to cover the count, and we were there from start to early hours in the morning till it was all over. We were there, and I was watching stuff. I watched them, you know, the Unionists, the Labour, the Tories turning up, you know, in their dancing gear before all the results were through. They're all dolled up, ready to get out. I watched a Labour councillor get out and hugging these guys with Union Jacks, Orange Order guys with Union Jacks. I was enraged, you know, I was just enraged. And then when I finally get in a taxi and I go back to the South Side Shawlands, I got out the taxi and my friend was there. My friend was outside the Glad Cafe, and he invited me into the Glad Cafe just to calm down, just to chill out, because I was done in by then. And I thought, great idea, I'll get in, I'll have a coffee or something and relax. So I went in, and who was there? But the BBC. The BBC were there, John. Right, it was the woman for the One Show, you know, and I just stood at the bar, just staring at this, and she had a young couple on, and she was giving it, you know, okay, so how are we going to bring people together? And I'm, in my absolute tiredness, I'm thinking to myself, that will never happen. That will never, ever happen. And I think it was the next day, you know, I basically thought, you know, we're still needed. We had the elections coming up, right? And we had, you know, it was EU, you know, and there was various things. And I thought, okay, I'll hang about to then. I'll do this. We're still needed. And we're bound to get another referendum in the next 2 years, right? And that didn't happen. But, I still think there's a need for us. I'm still hoping that there's a referendum around the corner. We just don't live stream, John, as you know. In the background, we're also helping groups, which people don't see, but it's always been part of what we do. From the get-go, it was like, okay, we'll show people how to live stream. Then it was with whatever you had at hand to live stream, to get in the real world and live stream, use it. A phone, any old battered device, just use it and live stream it. That was at the time, and we're showing people, we're trying to encourage people to live stream, we're trying to tell them the benefits of live streaming, and that hasn't changed. It's just, again, we've tried to show people through that period of time about live streaming, Skype stuff and all that. But the big thing that changed was when Facebook came on and made it easier for people to live stream. Also, it's terrible to say this, but COVID coming along forced people to pick up new skills and, not be frightened of, using Zoom, right? And learning how to live stream it from Zoom, so we're still needed. We're still doing, we're outside live streams. You'll see more of those happening. But at the moment, it's mainly all this stuff, online shows that we're creating. We've got loads coming up as well. That we're going to try and get off the ground. But again, we're trying to encourage groups to, get their voices out there. If you're Zooming, if you can do a Zoom call with your colleagues, you can live stream stuff, right? So we can show people how to do that. We can also show them how to promote it, etc., etc. It's good.
If somebody's watching tonight, Kevin, and they think, I had no idea that you just could do this. I take it what they need to do is to contact you.
Yeah. Yes, send me an email, kevin@independencelive.net. Right? You can go to the website, there's a form there at independencelive.net, I believe. Or, there's a form in IndyLive.radio as well, so you can go there. Yeah, kevin@independencelive.net. If you've got any questions, let us know. And we are actually now looking to create more shows. We're reaching out to people, groups. But if you've got an idea for a show, it can be cultural, right? It doesn't need to be political, cultural, because we're about everything. We want to tell Scotland's story, so that's everything, John. Yep. That's just not politics. That's what happens about us. The culture, what's going on about us. Because that's all part of Scotland's story.
Well, that's good to know, and it's good to know that people can contact you, and they can learn for themselves how to do what you do day in, daily.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question though. I mean, you're doing all of this, you're raising your family. Where do you find the time?
Well, there's no chance I could do all this on my own, right? Over the time we started, 2013, right, we've slowly picked up volunteers and more people have got involved with us. Everybody's got a life, so some of these people get involved and they have to go do their own thing, but at this, so at this moment in time, we've got a bunch of volunteers for the radio, IndyLive.radio, which started up in 2019, and they're doing a cracking job. We've got a podcast channel going, and that is fantastic. Anything that we live stream will end up in the podcast channel and get played out in IndyLive Radio. So you're reusing digital content for other ways. You just don't stream and leave it. So
you want to give any credit to these folks?
Hundreds of credit. I mean, when I started off, when I kicked off at Independence Live in 2013, it was myself and Derek McLean, who's now resident in Belgium, I believe. Yeah. And after that, it was the brilliant Jerry Mulvena get involved, Fiona McKinnon get involved. Loads of people have got involved, through that period. Jerry's still with us, Fiona's still with us. Derek does what he can. He can from Belgium. You know, he'll throw up a live stream now and again, or he'll bugger off to Catalan and do something. You know, so you know, there's loads of people. You know, everybody in IndyLive Radio, there's a massive list. You know, Val, Marlon, Fiona, they're all, you know, incredible. You know, we've got Indy Pram Ray there as well. You know, there's loads of people, but you know, it's never enough. We've actually, at this moment in time, we've got a really strong core that started with Independence Live, and we've got, you know, William Thompson, who does Gallus Event. He's put in 8 hours. He's committing 8 hours a week to Independence Live, and he's really fired up Independence Live, because this guy's a real business head, you know, and marketing and promotion and all that stuff, you know, and he does online conferences, hence Independence Live are now doing online conferences, right? And, you know, we've got Paul McCartney from Yes East Kilbride. He's committed to 8 hours a week doing stuff for Independence Live, and you know, it's really good. Young Jem Donnelly's coming on to do stuff, and another fellow called Aaron, he might be coming on to do stuff. So we're really, believe it or not, I was going to say taking off after 7 years. We're still there, but we're really pushing it. Loads more stuff coming out. We've actually, you like this, John? Do you like whiskey?
Sure, who doesn't?
Well, we've got a whiskey show starting on Independence Live, yeah. Believe it or not, all things whiskey. And we've also. Are
there any other shows you'd like to give a plug to?
Yeah, Toos, Gaelic Toos. If Adam was to hear me saying that, he'd probably kill me. It's called Toos. And we did our first one last week, and he was interviewing a lady from what do you call it? I've forgotten. From America, right? It's indigenous people from around the world that this show's on, and it's completely got out of my mind, but it will come back to me, and I'll bring it up. Right? That was a fascinating. She's from a tribe in America, right? So he was. It's all about indigenous people. So he was talking to her, and he's going to be talking to people around the world. You know, again, that's all part of, you know, Scotland's stories.
Yeah.
You know, indigenous, you know, Adam's a Gael. He considers himself indigenous, you know, and I totally get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, so that's brilliant. You know, it was a great show, and we had a debrief the other day there to try and improve things, because, you know, the person who was talking to turned up late. She had a mobile phone. She was moving her head like that. Last, John, so she was, the volume was going up and down. You'd be screaming, John, right? But she came on late, so we couldn't do anything about it. But, well, you know, it's one of those things.
Good. You can tell them the story that I recall from the first Governor General of Canada decided to do a pastoral visit out to, you know, the far west to visit some forts out there. So he had this big sort of retinue that turned up at this fort away in the boondocks, and he suddenly announced to the commander of the fort that he would like to go out there and visit some of the tribes. And the guy was a bit nonplussed because he was wondering about security, but the Governor General was insistent. So the commander turned to this group of dishevelled Indians, all gathered together in a corner, all huddled together. And he said, "McTavish, could you show the Governor General around?" Because apparently the Scots were notorious for forming liaisons with the local folks. So McTavish rose from amongst this group and said, I'd be happy to show this guy whoever the hell he is. So I don't know if it's an apocryphal story or true or not, but it's always sort of resonated there. So you've got all these different shows. How in heaven's name you keep track of it all? Because I know what you like to do, sparing your blushes, is to set people on the way, to help them as they go along, but to encourage them to, you know, to create their own furrow, to do their thing with you being supportive. But what's involved in all of that, of course, is people are going to come back to you repeatedly saying, well, I did this X and Y, but somehow I didn't get Z like you did. So what am I doing wrong? So you're trying to keep all the balls up in the air for the existing stuff. You're helping people who need help along the way. And now you've got new shows coming along. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a handful, isn't it?
It certainly is, and again, this wouldn't be possible without people being involved to do it. Wally, Paul, James coming on, getting involved soon. It just wouldn't be feasible. But we'll see how it goes. We'll
so
get all these shows going.
I mean, you do great work, obviously. It's doing your blushes. But how are you financed? How does that work?
We do torturous crowdfunders every time the money hits a certain level in the bank, the bank account. It's like, okay, full on panic levels. Let's do a crowdfunder. So that's how we do it. That's how we do it.
Does that work for you?
Well, every crowdfunder I do, I think this is the last crowdfunder that I do it. I keep thinking they're going to fail because it's generally like that. That's how it goes, But we're still, I'm still here, and I mean, we do have quite a lot of outlays as well. There's quite a lot of outlays between IndyLive Radio and Independence Live. So it's just how it is.
So if there's somebody watching or listening or maybe both tonight, and they wanted to support you, is there still a crowdfunder running, or
they can, again, we're part of the plan is to sort out Independence Live website, right? It's needing a major overhaul, right? IndyLive Radio's looking pretty damn good. If you go to Independence Live, I think there's a support. Listen to me, I think there's a support. I'm sure there is, right? A support link menu up the top, and it's got bank details about setting up, if you want to do a monthly donation. And IndyLive Radio's website's far superior looking. You can go there and there's a donation button there. I think it's just a general donation thing. That's actually part of the long list, John, that I've got to look at to go and check out what's up there at the moment, because I think the text needs updated. Yeah. So yeah, you can go to independencelive.net. There's donation stuff there, and IndyLive Radio.
You do all of these things, and again, sparing your blushes, you do them well, and you do it on a shoestring. Is there anything that you're particularly fond of, that you take enormous pride from, where you get a sense of real achievement? Maybe it was something that looked impossible, and you managed to crack it, or something that nobody else was interested in, and now it's, people generally like it. Is there anything along the way that you think, I never thought that was going to happen?
Doing this kind of stuff that we're doing now, John, is easy. It's bread and butter stuff to me, right? But the election coverage that we did from the Emirates was excellent. That was fantastic. We had data being updated along the bottom with the results and percentages and all that. And that was getting pulled in from a Google spreadsheet, right? Somebody was on the Google spreadsheet, as I think it was a few people from the IndyLive Radio team were on updating it, right? And we had it all programmed, right? And the software would pull it in and it displayed down the bottom. So we're well chuffed with that. And, it was great. I've been able to live stream outside of the, me and Paul McCartney were down at the Emirates with a table, laptops were out, with cameras up, with Indy Pram, Ray and Fiona were interviewing people for the floor, so they would jump in. John, you were there. I'm telling you this. You were there interviewing people on Zoom. We were pulling in people. Richard Walker from Air come in. That was to me, that was quite exciting. That's just like sitting down and doing a big production like that we've not done for long enough. But that was so exciting to do that. Organising it and getting speakers and all that, everything. I loved that. But getting these new shows and getting more production and trying to get other groups to do it. If they've got anybody's got an idea, do it once a month show if you wanted. To do something, we'll help them out. we're reaching out to all yes groups. Or if you're an individual who likes to talk and want to interview people and you get something to say, get in contact, Kevin@independencelive.net. Yeah? And I'm hoping John hasn't frozen on me. It looks as if he has. John, you've frozen, haven't you? Okay, folks. I'm going to have to try and get John back. John is gone. John has dodgy internet, right? He stays out in the sticks. And this has happened before. It happens now and again with John. But generally I'm behind the scenes, and it's the person that he's interviewing that has to keep talking while I try and get John back on screen. So I'm just looking at my other laptop to see if John comes back. But yeah, he stays in the sticks and he's got dodgy internet. I'm just hoping he can get broadband one of these days. It's a pain in the butt, because you're always worried something like this happens. But there you go. I tell you what, while I'm waiting, I can maybe have a look at some of the messages. We did have a problem with the Facebook live stream. It basically didn't work. So Facebook have changed the back end for setting up scheduling Facebook live streams, and it just didn't work. So I had to. Hello? Hi, John. Yeah. Hi. So I was just telling. I was just telling people, don't worry about it. I've explained your internet problems, John, right? And I was telling people that I had a problem with Facebook earlier on. They've changed their back end, John, right, for setting up scheduled live streams, and it just it failed on me. So people might wonder why we start 5 minutes earlier, right? I had to go on in the live streaming software we've got, Restream.service. I had to go on and switch on the stream to Facebook direct, as opposed to going to a scheduled live stream event. That might not mean anything to anybody, what I've just said, but there you go.
Yeah.
So these things happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, exactly, into context, I was watching the football this afternoon before the show began, and may I pay a great tribute to Wales, who won 2-0 against
Good on them, good on Wales.
Very good. But that was a transmission from Baku in Azerbaijan. Wow. And, it dropped a number of times. It wasn't consistent. And the BBC eventually got around to blaming UFA.
Dear me.
And said it was the feed from UFA in Switzerland that was not working as well as it should have done.
Yeah.
But there you are. Even in the best ordered environments, things can go wrong. It's just the nature of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you react to it as well. I mean, as long as you don't let it bother you and you don't flap, these things happen. And there's enough, I'm sure a lot of the viewers have watched enough of our live streams to, they know when things go wrong. And, but that's just how it goes,
I know somebody's going to make a lot of money about, I don't know what you call it, Wi-Fi proofing Zoom calls.
Yeah. John, what we need for you is for BT to slap in a big internet cable to your house.
Well,
one of these days.
I made some inquiries, and there was a guy from OpenReach who had a van outside, and I asked him, when do you think we'll get connected? And he said, very, very soon. And I said, when? He said, end of next year. Yeah. But it will be fibre to premises, I promise you. And I said, well, that makes me, we'll be the last people in Scotland to go. He said, oh, yeah, very likely.
Well, I tell you what, that is positive, John. I mean, talking about broadband, the whole of Scotland needs fast internet, right? If we want to really take off economically, all the islands, fast internet, fast broadband. That's a biggie. That's a biggie for Scotland. But that's not devolved.
As we were saying, we were talking about the program from the Emirates, and it was awfully good. I mean, it really was, because I thought you and Paul put together a real good program. The other bits and pieces, it seemed to be connected well. I mean, you had Ruth Davison, you had Ruth from Brian Watson.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ruth, fancy calling you Davison.
It's a shame.
In a public profile too. I'm going to have to wash my mouth out there. I'll tell you about that. And also, we had Leslie Riddoch, we had other folks on the show. And I thought it was, certainly from my point of view, vastly entertaining, because it's good to speak to people at the moment. And I think that's a thing that you guys do so exceptionally well is that live, that interface, so it feels and it's smooth, and you've got all this data coming out at the same time, and it pushes the envelope a little bit each time. So it gives you more of probably get a better feel of what's possible in practice as well as in theory. And I think maybe it also provides a model for other people, because I'm hoping, and I guess you do too, that along the lines other people will their output will grow. It may have started off, because IndyRef gave them a leg up and help and stuff like that. But you'd like to think, I'm sure you do, that people will do their stuff, and it will start to hopefully to some degree replace a media which is stale. Frankly, I mean, people pay a license fee, but when you look at some of the product, it's just pitiful.
There's just so much media out there now, isn't there? And then you throw in Netflix and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. There's so much out there. I'm not sure, goodness knows how this is all going to evolve. Probably more local television channels or stuff, or like that might come to the fore.
Yeah,
it's hard, it's kind of a bit hard to predict, but it's quite interesting. It was Orkney News. I've forgotten what's her name again, from Orkney News. Fiona Graham. I saw it was a tweet she put out yesterday, and it was like, we used to have the tagline, "Don't hate the media, become the media," all the time. Yeah. Don't hate the media, become the media. I don't know if that's irrelevant now, right? I was putting out that tagline so much, but she picked up on it, and that's how you ended up with Orkney News. So we kind of inspired her to set that up. Good. So you don't know who you reach out to or who gets inspired by what you do, but hopefully we do. We want to encourage people to just to do it, and that goes way back to when we started up and we were involved with the Radical Independence campaign, and the attitude, and a lot of people around about that time know about that just go do it attitude. It was very prevalent at the time. You just say, I can do it. And so I helped set up a RIC event, at the Glad Cafe again. And I think that might have been the first ever one we tried to live stream. I get mixed up, my memory's not so good. But after that, I was like talking to Derek, and he's like, what can we do? Let's, what Derek suggested, live streaming. And I was like, right, let's do it. And my brother had given me an iPad, and there we were with no idea what we were doing, John. We had none, zero. But we found this live streaming service, and we hoped it would live stream to it. And I don't know if we get any viewers at all, but who cared? We started it. The ball got rolling.
So, to me, that it's all about attitude.
Yeah.
You started off with this feeling, this emotion that you were determined to make this thing happen, and so much of it is like that. And also, it seems to me you had to overcome something which people in some other countries that I know of, don't have to. It's a hurdle that other countries don't have sometimes. For example, I spent some time in the States. Now, what's the difference in broadcasting between the States and here? Well, one of the major differences is that every locality has its own television studio and station. It might have maybe 6 or 7 radio stations, a couple of talks, maybe music. Every music style under the sun. But it's down to, it seems to me, obviously distance is a factor, because you can't, connecting up a whole country like that, 3,000 miles across, is a big challenge. But nonetheless, there is a sense of local democracy.
It's definitely...
It's somehow associated with broadcasting. I don't know how to describe it. But for example, I lived in a place where it was quite small in terms of population, but they elected everyone from the dog catcher right up to the mayor.
That's amazing.
And the sheriff. Mm-hmm. So these guys were beholden to you. Mm-hmm. They knew you. They knew Kevin Gibney. And they knew Kevin Gibney because Kevin Gibney, they depended on Kevin Gibney's vote and his wife's vote and the kids as they became of age.
It's got to concentrate your mind, isn't it? Do the right thing.
And of course, these people would come on the local television. They would,
I think you could get more of that, more local TV channels happening. That could happen, with cheapness of technology, etc. I forget independence, and that's something we should be able to look at, because Ofcom is just this horror.
Well, Ofcom is a creature of centralisation.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is. Control of information.
If you start off with a piece of paper and you say that the primary driving force is that there should be the same message across the entire network, then you end up where you end up now, which is just a mess sometimes. And you get outfits like BBC Scotland, which are notoriously unresponsive. Yeah. And as I often say, even if their output was deplored by every single viewer in Scotland, they could still continue for the simple reason that there's no local democratic oversight of their behaviour. Now that's a gross maladministration, it seems to me, where you don't have to depend on your customers. In other words, you can disregard your customers and still carry on with a great career, with your mortgage getting paid. And if the customers complain, you say, how dare you? Who cares? And eventually that leads to your demise because they're doing the very opposite that you're doing. Yeah. You live or die on whether people find your output helpful, useful and informative. They are at the other end of the spectrum. And at the end of the day, strictly speaking, they could carry on even if their output was regarded as unhelpful and uninformative. Crazy. It's upside down.
The things we could do when we're independent, completely look at that, change so many things. But it just feels as if we're kind of stuck at this moment in time.
Okay, what is your relationship with the main Independence Party? Do you have a relationship with the SNP?
Nothing formal. We deal with, we interview people, as you know, and all political parties, if they'll talk to us, right? Pro-Indy parties, and we've done it, with the TNT show, we've done a few unionists as well. But relationship, nothing formal, it's just like any other one. We did have Michelle Thompson doing a show on Independence Live, and she's a great speaker, and I would really rate her, and it'd be great if she could do more stuff, but she's a bit busy.
Well, of course she's a bit busy, and they're all a bit busy, but you could argue that a lot of what you do ought to be helpful to independence parties or people who generally are in favour of constitutional change, which the SNP claim to be. So therefore, in the face of it, you would think there might be a little bit of a queue outside your door saying, look, we like what you do, we think we want to plug into that. How would you like to interview the First Minister? Have you ever had that?
I don't think I've ever get close to interviewing Nicola Sturgeon, ever close to it. I don't know why. We've certainly tried to get interviews with Nicola through the years, but it never happened. You know, we came close actually at the Glasgow Emirates, John, but we just had packed up, and she was doing the tour. So I was literally eating a sandwich, man, and she was talking to the folk next to us, and I was so tired. I was like, oh, can I do this? Can I have the brass neck to go up and talk to ask? And I was like, do you know what? We're done, and going to have to do this another time. Yeah. But you know, she might have come on then. I doubt it. But no, we've never really got Nicola to come on and talk to us. But you know, I would imagine she might be a bit worried.
If there's anyone watching and listening tonight, there's an open invitation to Nicola Sturgeon and any and all members, I assume, of the cabinet, absolutely, many of whom perhaps are based in Glasgow in the west of Scotland, to come on the show, and talk to an audience which is eager, it's receptive, intelligent, and fairly broad-based, and it's an opportunity. And there, I'll just leave it at that. And you're easy to contact. And as tonight has demonstrated, you're a responsive sort of guy. You're not sort of sitting there saying, well, you have to prove to me that you have to go. None of that stuff. You're saying, hey, if you'd like to come on, we'll make a space for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe we're interviewing someone for the Green Party next week, John. Is that correct?
That's true. We have Laura Moody on the show next week on the TNT show, and we'll be talking Green, and we'll be talking about her views on the Constitution. So, you know, thank you for reminding me to plug that, because
yeah, I just don't. You know, as you know, John, you know, Independence Live supports all pro-Indy parties, you know, without favour, you know, or comment. You know, if they want to come on and talk to us, we'd be more than happy. You know, if anyone gets good stuff to say, we'll hear it, John, because we are reaching out to the no community as well, because we're envisaging an independent Scotland. That's when the yes movement disappears, and it's about Scotland and everybody here. That's, you know, so we need to be reaching out and creating those bridges and talking to people.
I mean, personally, I feel that's hugely important. I think it's important to talk to people, regardless of their position on the Constitution. And I often say, and it's a cliche, but there's some real value to it, I do believe, which is that it's always interesting to preach to the choir, but you sometimes don't learn a lot. You learn a lot more, perhaps, from people who are opposed to your point of view, because you hear firsthand why they're opposed. What information has brought them to that view, and it's crucially important, you know. And without it, you don't know how to tailor your message. You don't know what people find important. I'll give you an example of what I mean, just very briefly. I think there was a Scottish election group published some of their papers today about why a number of Lib Dems and less so Labour, but particularly Conservatives, move their votes around in order to overcome any SNP voting strength in particular constituencies. It was quite well organised, and it was rather impressive to see people working that way. But it's a counsel of despair when you're in the business of trying to minimise somebody else's vote, because it effectively means you've given up on your own.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And people do vote negatively. I'm not saying they don't. And a lot of campaigns are determined by negative voting. The Scottish referendum, for one. So, what would you like to see in the future? We've got about 10 minutes to go. What is it? What would your wish be? What would you want for India?
Well, in the immediate future, we are trying to get more shows going, right? And that's what we're kind of concentrating on. really trying to launch more shows. So quite excited about that, right? Again, as I said before, we're reaching out to groups. If you've got something to say, we can help you get that sorted. We did that with Conta recently. They put out some stuff for the election that done it really well. We showed them how to use certain software. We held their hand through it, and you can do it better than us now. The whole streaming stuff. So yeah, just as I say, we're trying to reach out to more people. We want to try and get more shows going, and we've got a lot more stuff coming up. And before I forget, we're doing conferences every 6 weeks, John. Yeah, I've tried to set up conferences.
Right, tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've got one on Saturday, which is in defence of Scotland, which I'm really excited about. And it's on the Hop-In. It's a Hop-In conference event, and it's going to be about 5 hours long. Unfortunately, I don't have any links, but if you go to our social media channels, you'll see them up there. You'll see links and stuff up there. But I'm very excited about that. We've got a full schedule for that day. People, obviously talking various topics, including Trident and different things. What can we do with how do we envisage a new armed services in Scotland? So that'll be quite interesting. And the next one, I think.
Who's participating in that?
We've got. Oh God, I'd have to get it up on the screen. It's people. I'd have to get it up on the screen. Offhand, I just can't remember all the people. There's quite a lot of people. I mean, we've got veterans for Scottish independence too. It's a kind of joint thing with them, right? We're setting it up, but they've been giving us a lot of help with who to bring on board, etc. And I think if you give a donation, that'll be going to a couple of armed services charities and stuff, right? So of their choice, of the guys' choice. So it's the Veterans for Scottish Independence. So I'm really looking forward to that. But we're going to be doing other ones, John. Really interesting ones. Food and drink. I think the next one after that conference is to do with food, food, drink, fishing, that whole area that we're going to be getting up for the next one. That'll be in another 6 weeks. We just keep doing these conferences every 6 weeks, building them up. So we've got that. We've got the live streaming. IndyLive Radio, they do an amazing job as well, So it's all happening. If people are listening and want to volunteer, please, get in contact. Kevin at independencelive.net. I go to IndyLive Radio. I go to independencelive.net. Fill out a form and get in contact. There's so many ways to social media, get in contact, whatever way you want.
That's great. That's super. That's fantastic. And I mean, it's. I hope people respond to your suggestion, because I could see an enormous potential here. I mean, you've got conferences, you've got a whole range of new ideas coming along, and bearing in mind that the mainstream media is centrally controlled. Here's an opportunity for people to say, if they feel strongly about it, to say, well, I can create my own media. I don't have to sit here deploring the fact that somebody else is not providing me with the media to which I am entitled or deserve. Hey, forget that. That's negative. Just go for it. Set up your own. Yeah, speak to Kevin.
Absolutely. And people can do podcasting and stuff. It's like, it doesn't need to be radio, podcasting, whatever. Yeah. It's all doable. You can, if you want to set up the Orkney News, anything. Don't hate the media, become the media. I'm reminded, John, of 2013, right? When, 12, 13, 14, when I used to go to the local co-op and walking past the wall of newspapers, John, right? Denigrating Scotland. We're poor, rubbish, we're scum, we can't do anything for ourselves. And then you get the famous one with the Nazi flag when they replaced the saltire, try to paint it as these Nazis, right? But they could do that because they had the power of the mainstream media behind them, right? And that's a motivating factor. When you see that, when you walk past, you go to get your milk every day, and you're having to walk past these newspapers, and you're like that, raging. Remember, John, see that time, there was nobody supported Scottish independence for the mainstream media. eventually the Sunday Herald came on and started supporting it with this wee Sunday Herald, and I think that was Richard Walker that was behind that, I believe.
Yes,
fair play to him. But there was nothing. It was like just everybody just shouting at you from all these mainstream media channels and newspapers, right? And to do what we did in that IndyRef was amazing. To pull off that result was amazing against what we were up against. Incredible.
And you have to think that the reason that there's so much opposition to another IndyRef from the UK government is because they've done the work, they've done the research, and I suspect the research shows that if there was another campaign, they would lose it significantly. Otherwise, why dig your heels in? I mean, why not bring it on? Say, come on, have another one, because we can do a Quebec on you. The second one was what killed the independence movement, essentially in Quebec. But they're not saying bring it on. They're saying exactly the opposite. They're saying take it away. We don't want to have any part of it. And that's not a sign of confidence. That's a sign of weakness, it seems to me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that.
We've only got a couple of minutes to go, Kevin. Are there any particular final messages that you would like to send to people, to communicate to? Is there anything that you want to say right now?
I'll use my old tagline, don't hate the media, become the media, right? The new one is telling Scotland stories, right? But don't hate the media, become the media. You can do it too, right? And Rick were great in the first referendum, and we're going to be talking to Rick about getting their own show, and I'd love to see that, Rick doing a show. And for the love of God, right, please promote our events, because we don't have the money or the reach that the BBC has to promote, right? We don't, right? When we've got our Facebook channel, right, there's only so much you can do. There's algorithms going on in there, John, that stop stuff being reaching that many people, right? You're reliant on people sharing stuff or everything we do. Unless we find £1 million down the side of the couch and we can start ploughing it into promoting and all that, we're kind of stuff. So please help promote us, and don't hate the media, become the media. Independence Live, IndyLive Radio is about telling Scotland stories. And, check out IndyLive Radio. They've got a podcast channel. They've got you can get apps for the phone, really cool apps, developed by the Hub, Dave Murchison. God bless Dave Murchison, does a great job, right? We're trying to work with all yes groups and people like Dave Murchison and that. And I was speaking to iMail, Lindsay Bruce today, so, folks, please promote what we do and, get involved. Don't give up, don't get down, right? Don't get down.
Yeah, and remember, folks, no license, no problem. You've got all of this right in front of you, and so much more.
And definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that's where all the juice is happening, right? We need to get the website sorted, but live stream. It's a lot better than Facebook, right? YouTube's where it's at. Subscribe to our channel.
Well, there you are, folks. It's as straightforward as that. Subscribe to the channel. And you know something? It's been really, really good tonight, Kevin. Thank you.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Good.
And it's high time. And you might want to think about doing this, coming out in front of the camera and doing your thing. Let me just round off, if I may, everyone, just by reminding you of a few things that are coming up. Next week, as we mentioned, Laura Moody is joining us from the Green Party. So get your questions in for her. We'll be talking about the Green policies, we'll be talking about the Green Party, we'll be talking about the Constitution and a whole raft of other things. So if you've got any thoughts, concerns or comments for her, submit your questions, please, and we'll try and get as many answered as we can. And also, at my regular plug for the Constitution column in the Sunday National, go to the 7-day supplement. It's there inside the back page. It's the only Constitution column in the UK that's been a feature now for well over a year. And you'll find that Dr. Elliot Bulmer is drawing a connection between democracy and cholera. And also, please, always support IndyLive, support what the IndyLive team are trying to do. And as you can see with your support, all of this can be achieved and so much more. Thank you so much, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. And a big thank you to Kevin again. Take care, everyone.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.